Hi everyone. All right, this is your review for your second exam in the study guide. It's going to review Chapter 7, 9, 12, and 14. So for Chapter 7, this was something that you all had to review on your own. We didn't have an in-class presentation on this. They reviewed distribution and service. You only have multiple choice questions from this section. You'll all want to review decentralized versus centralized meal assembly. Essentially, if you remember back in the beginning of the semester when we talked about conventional meal service, right? We had centralized and decentralized. In that conventional meal service, centralized, everything basically occurred in that one kitchen area as well as service. So I think what we used in class was a hospital cafeteria. They make the food in the back of the kitchen, and then it's served just beyond service door, where it's served to guests in a, maybe buffet style or in a cafeteria style. We're decentralized, the same food's made, but it's maybe put in hotel pans and sent to a different location for service for portioning. Okay, same kind of concepts here for decentralized and centralized. Categories of service, you'll need to be familiar with the different categories, including American style, French style, and family, but don't forget about self-service, counter, the other ones that I think it's the third slide, maybe second slide in that slide deck that talks about the different types of service that can be provided, tableside and the like. Okay, just be familiar with those. Last, managing service, know your problem-solving steps. They are listed in the slides as well as in your text. Chapter 9, management principles. So you will have multiple choice and an essay or short answer question here from this section. You'll want to be able to identify the different roles of managers. We had the case study about this in class where we had interpersonal, informational, and decisional roles. So be able to identify some roles under each of those categories. Formal authority, accepted authority, and authority of competence. 3 different areas of authority. We didn't discuss this specifically in class, so you'll need to review this in the slide deck and the differences between the 3. Span of management. This is basically how many individuals you can manage at one time. There are different aspects of an environment to be aware of. You'll want to review the specific slide and section in your text in regards to this and understanding how span, what policies you can have in place and what aspects need to be in place in order to be able to manage a large amount of people and people in different geographic areas. Corporate culture. We talked a little bit about this in class in our mini lecture prior to the case study. Corporate culture has those set areas or attributes, maybe that's a better word, things like having fun in and out of work, giving back to the community, and remembering or understanding or being able to identify the goals and objectives of the organization, their values. So just review that information about what goes into a corporate culture. What's different, or not different, but as something to consider, innovation versus traditional, you can have good corporate culture in an innovative environment or a traditional environment. Just the way that innovative and traditional organizations are set up or designed are different, right? Innovative is more horizontal in nature as far as your chain of command, where traditional is much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Vertical in its setup. There's a clear chain of command in traditional organizations, right? There's a couple different things that we talked about in class that you'll want to review, the differences between innovative and traditional. What a lot of students get confused is corporate culture and how it's related to innovative and traditional. Like I said, you can have a great corporate culture in innovative and a great corporate culture in traditional. Just because you're a traditional organization doesn't mean you have a bad corporate culture. Okay, so just keep in mind that there's some differences there. All right, chapter 12. This is where we talked about HR. bulk of, or quite a few questions are coming from this section, multiple choice and short answer. Job description, we did talk about this quite a bit in class, and you guys had practice writing job descriptions in our case study. So just review what we did in class, goes into a job description, what doesn't. FTE, you just need to know what those initials stand for. Full-time equivalent. You don't have to calculate FTEs, okay? Not like you did in 344. You just need to know what it stands for. Job enlargement versus job enrichment. We did talk about this briefly in class. Job enlargement, essentially giving you more duties, responsibilities. Job enrichment is providing opportunities for growth, for maybe learning new material, going to a conference, things like that. Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA, you just need to be aware of what that entails, what the act actually states. Allowing members or individuals in organizations to take time away from the job site to take care of loved ones. Sorry, you guys, I have a tickle in my throat. You need to go be aware of what FMLA is, okay, and be able to define it. All right, different types of evaluations. We didn't talk about this specifically in class, so you'll need to review the lecture on your own. There are different types of evaluations you can perform on an employee: checklist, management by objectives, a Likert scale, or a rating scale of 1 to 5. 1 not performing, 5 exceeding expectations. So there's a couple of them that are listed, so make sure you review those. You'll also want to review the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, to be aware of how that impacts hiring decisions and what goes into that act. I talk about it briefly in the slide deck. Structured versus unstructured interview questions. There are examples in the module. We talked about this also in class. You guys had practice in your case studies writing some of these questions, so just be able to draw upon that. Know what the difference is of those between, those different questions, and when they should be used, and what types of interviews should they be used. And then last in this chapter is types of employment testing and rationale for using. We talked about, again, this briefly, lots of different types of tests that you can have. Personality test, job skill test, we talked about. And maybe there's some reasons on why you'd want to do certain tests over others, depending on the position that's being applied. Last is chapter 14, marketing. You have both multiple choice and essay. Marketing mix, know your 4 Ps. There is a slide specifically listing these. Be able to identify and define market segmentation, and different variables that you look at for different consumer markets and how you break those markets apart. We talked about demographic, we talked about psychosocial or psychographic, geographic. Brand equities, your worth of the brand, and how that plays into part of consumers making their decisions and their choices on what they choose to purchase, and their loyalty to that brand. Differences between products and services when marketing. There were 4 different aspects to this that I reviewed very briefly in class. So make sure you review those, because the differences between service and products are different when it comes to marketing. How you identify target markets, and what things you can do to assist with that. Niche marketing, so that specific population, and how you would, or why maybe you'd want to focus in on a certain population. We talked briefly about the use of social media in marketing and how it can be influential. I know some groups identify this as a good way in their case study to market the plan that they had in place. So just be able to identify some ways social media is helpful in marketing. Our factors that influence a marketing plan or influence. So that could be your market segmentation, that could be the price. Kind of goes back to that marketing mix of all your 4 Ps. All right, that's it.